I overheard my wife telling her sister that I was a complete disappointment in the bedroom. My heart shattered. Instead of blowing up, I conducted my own investigation. What I discovered next changed everything. Last Tuesday night changed everything. I was coming back from the kitchen with a cold beer when I heard my wife's voice coming from the living room. She was on the phone with her sister, and what I heard next made my blood run cold. I'm telling you, he has absolutely no idea how to please a woman. It's like he learned everything from an outdated manual. I froze in the hallway. My wife was talking about me, about our private life, to her sister. I mean, he tries, but it's so mechanical. No passion, no instinct. Sometimes I just lie there and think about my grocery list until he's done. Her sister's laugh echoed through the phone's speaker. That's awful. Have you tried talking to him about it? What's the point? You can't teach someone to have a natural rhythm. Besides, he's so sensitive about everything. The moment I give him the slightest feedback, he gets all defensive and moody. I stood there, listening to my own wife tear me down to someone else. Every word felt like a punch to the gut. But what really got to me was not just the criticism. It was how casually she spoke about it, as if she were discussing the weather. Honestly, sometimes I wonder what I was thinking when I married him. My friends keep asking me why I look so tired all the time. And I can't exactly tell them it's because my husband thinks romance means just asking if I'm ready. More laughter from her sister. Oh no, he doesn't do that. Yes, he does. And then he acts like he's some kind of generous partner because he asked the question. The bar is so low it's underground. I had heard enough. I went back to the kitchen and set my beer down on the counter with more force than necessary. My hands were shaking, not with anger, but with something much worse, humiliation. For 6 years of marriage, I thought we had a good relationship. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never imagined she viewed our most private moments with such contempt. I thought about all the times I had tried to please her, all the effort I had put in to make sure she was comfortable and happy. Apparently, I was deluding myself. I heard her say goodbye to her sister and hang up. A few minutes later, she walked into the kitchen with the same smile she always wore around me. Hey, honey, what are you doing in here? She asked, pouring herself a glass of water. Just grabbing a drink, I replied, studying her face. She looked completely normal. No guilt, no discomfort, as if she hadn't just spent 20 minutes destroying my confidence to someone else. Is everything okay? You look a little pale. I almost laughed at the irony. I'm fine. I was just talking to my sister. She says hi. I'm sure she does. If she picked up on the sarcasm in my voice, she didn't show it. She just kissed me on the cheek and went back to the living room to continue watching her show. I stood there in the kitchen for another 10 minutes, replaying every word I had heard. The worst part was not even the criticism itself. It was the realization that while I was treating our marriage like a partnership, she was treating it like a performance review. And apparently, I was failing. That night, as she fell asleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling, wondering how long this had been going on. How many people had she told her complaints about me to? How many conversations had I missed where she portrayed me as an incompetent husband who couldn't even satisfy his own wife? For the first time in our marriage, I started to question everything. Was I really as bad as she described, or was there something else going on here? I thought about the way she responded to my efforts, how she always seemed distracted or impatient. I had always blamed myself, thinking I needed to try harder or be better. But now, I wondered if the problem wasn't my technique. Maybe the problem was that she had already decided I was not worth her genuine attention. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She made coffee, kissed me goodbye, wished me a good day at work. The usual routine, just like always, but something fundamental had shifted inside me overnight. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was calculating. If my wife thought I was such a disappointment, then maybe it was time I found out what other people thought of me. Maybe it was time I stopped trying so hard to please someone who clearly couldn't be pleased. Driving to work that morning, I made a promise to myself. I was not going to confront her about what I had heard. Not yet. First, I was going to conduct my own investigation. I needed to know exactly how deep this disrespect went before I decided what to do about it. Because there is one thing I have learned about myself over the years. I do not stay where I am not wanted. And from what I had heard last night, it was becoming very clear that my own wife might not want me as much as I thought. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own marriage. Not the obsessive, paranoid kind, but the methodical type who pays attention to details he had previously ignored. It started with her phone habits. She had always been protective of her device, but now I noticed a pattern. Whenever she would excuse herself to take a work call or text her mom, she would be gone for 20 or 30 minutes. And when she came back, she had that same satisfied look one gets after unloading on a friend. I did not go through her messages. I did not need to. Her behavior told me everything. Last Friday, we went to a birthday party for one of her colleagues. I was chatting with a group of guys at the bar when I saw her across the room with 3 other women, all huddled together like they were sharing state secrets. Their body language screamed, "Gossip session." One of them glanced in my direction and shook her head with a look of pity. Another patted my wife's shoulder as if consoling her for something tragic. When my wife looked my way and saw me watching, she quickly changed the subject and the group dispersed. But the damage was done. I now knew her complaints about me were not limited to family calls. Having fun, I asked when she joined me later. "Oh yeah, just catching up with the girls. You know how it is." "I'm starting to," I said. She did not catch the edge in my voice at all. Or maybe she just did not care enough to notice. The real revelation came the following Tuesday. I was grabbing a sandwich for lunch at this deli downtown when I ran into her friend from college. We had met a few times at parties, and she had always been friendly enough. "Hey, how are you doing?" she asked with an overly compassionate tone that immediately put me on alert. "Doing great. Why wouldn't I be?" She looked uncomfortable. "Oh, I just meant well. You know how she worries about everything. Marriage is work, right?" "Right. What exactly has she been telling you?" "Nothing specific. Just that you two are going through some adjustments. But it's totally normal. Every couple has their challenges." The way she avoided my gaze told me everything. My wife had been gossiping to anyone who would listen. College friends, co-workers, probably even the cashier at Target for all I knew. That night, I decided to test something. Instead of my usual routine of making dinner and asking about her day, I just ordered a pizza and focused on my own things. I did not initiate conversation. I did not ask if she needed anything. I did not even sit next to her on the couch. She did not notice for the first hour. When she finally did, her reaction was telling. "You're being weird tonight. Are you sick or something?" "Just tired." "Well, you could still make an effort." I had a long day too. There it was. The expectation that I should always be the one making the effort. The assumption that her day mattered more than mine. I had been so conditioned to this dynamic that I had never questioned it before. "Maybe you should call your sister and talk about it," I said nonchalantly, not looking up from my laptop. She paused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. I just thought she might have some advice. She seems to have an opinion on everything else." If she caught the hint, she did not acknowledge it. She just shrugged and went back to her show. But I noticed something else. Relief, as if she were actually glad I was not paying attention to her. It made me wonder if all her complaining to others was a way to justify her own lack of interest in our marriage. Over the weekend, I began an experiment. I started treating our relationship exactly the way she did. Minimal effort, maximum focus on myself. I stopped asking about her plans and started making my own. I stopped trying to include her in conversations and started having more interesting ones with other people. The change was immediate and revealing. On Sunday afternoon, I was washing my car in the driveway when our neighbor came over to chat. She is a divorced woman in her 40s who has always been friendly but professional. Nothing inappropriate, just neighborly. "Your car always looks immaculate," she said, genuinely impressed. "My ex never took care of anything. I had to nag him just to take out the trash." "I like to take care of the things that matter to me," I replied. We talked for about 15 minutes about cars, weekend plans, normal stuff. But I noticed something. She listened when I spoke. She laughed at my jokes. She asked follow-up questions about things I mentioned. Basic human courtesy I had forgotten existed. When I went back inside, my wife barely looked up from her phone. "Who were you talking to out there?" she asked distractedly. "The neighbor." "Huh, that's nice." That was it. No curiosity about what we discussed, no interest in my afternoon activities. Nothing. That night, brushing my teeth, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. When had I started to look so defeated? When had I accepted that this was the best I could expect from the person who was supposed to be my biggest supporter? I thought about all the times over the past 6 years I had gone out of my way to make her happy. The surprises, the thoughtful gestures, the constant effort to be the husband I thought she wanted. And for what? So she could tell everyone who would listen that I was inadequate. The more I thought about our relationship, the more I realized I had been playing a rigged game. She got to be the victim of my supposed shortcomings, while I was cast as the villain who never tried hard enough. Meanwhile, she never had to examine her own contributions to our problems. But here's the thing that really hit me. In all my years of marriage, I had never once complained about her to another person. Not to my friends, not to my family, not to my coworkers. I had always handled our issues in private, out of respect for the relationship. She clearly was not operating by the same code. As I lay in bed that night, listening to her breathe beside me, I realized something important. I was not angry about her complaints. I was angry about her dishonesty. If she had issues with me, she should have come to me first. Instead, she chose to humiliate me behind my back while pretending everything was fine to my face. That kind of disrespect does not get better with time. It gets worse. So I decided to stop playing defense and go on the offensive. If she wanted to tell everyone I was not satisfying her, then I was going to find out what real satisfaction looked like. And I was going to start by satisfying myself. The transformation did not happen overnight, but it started with a simple decision. I was done trying to fix something that was never broken in the first place. On Monday morning, instead of making coffee for both of us, as I had every day for 6 years, I made 1 cup for myself. When she stumbled into the kitchen 20 minutes later, looking confused, I was already halfway through the sports section. "Where's my coffee?" she asked, still half asleep. "The coffee maker is right there, same place it's been for 6 years. She looked at me like I had spoken a foreign language. "But you always make the coffee. And you always have something to complain about. Looks like we're both breaking habits." I did not say it harshly, just as a matter of fact. But her expression told me she was not used to me being anything other than accommodating. That evening, I joined a gym. Not the discount club around the corner, but the nice facility across town I had driven past 1,000 times, thinking it was too expensive or too much of a hassle. It turns out, investing in yourself is not a hassle at all. It is freedom. Within a week, I had a routine that had nothing to do with her schedule or needs. I would hit the gym after work, grab dinner somewhere on the way home, and arrive around 8 p.m. feeling energized instead of depleted. "You're never home anymore," she complained after the 3rd night of this. "I'm home now. You know what I mean. We used to spend evenings together. We used to do a lot of things. People change." The gym became more than just exercise. It became proof that I was capable of commitment and discipline. Every week, I could see progress in the mirror, not just physically, but in the way I carried myself. Others noticed, too. 2 weeks into my new routine, I was walking out of the grocery store when someone called my name. It was my old college roommate's sister. We had run into each other at a few parties over the years, but had never really talked. "I almost didn't recognize you," she said, genuinely surprised. "You look fantastic. What have you been doing?" "Just taking better care of myself." "Well, whatever it is, keep it up. You look like a completely different person." The conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes, but it was 5 minutes of someone actually seeing me, not the version of me my wife had constructed in her complaints, but the real me, the smart, funny, and apparently interesting guy. At work, things started to change too. I had always been competent at my job, but I played it safe, never volunteering for the high-visibility projects, never pushing for the promotions I knew I deserved. I was too focused on being home for dinner, being the reliable husband who never made waves. That changed when I realized my wife was not even paying attention to my reliability anyway. I started staying late to work on a project I was genuinely passionate about. I volunteered to present at the monthly all-hands meeting. I initiated conversations with colleagues I had barely spoken to before. One of them was a woman from the marketing department, professional, sharp, with an energy that made every conversation feel important. We had exchanged maybe 20 words in 3 years of working in the same building. "I really liked your presentation today," she told me after the meeting. "You brought up some points I hadn't thought about." "Thanks. I've been thinking about that project for a while." "It shows. You should speak up more often. You have good instincts." "Good instincts?" When was the last time my wife had said anything like that to me? We ended up talking for another 10 minutes about work, about ideas, about goals. A normal professional conversation, but it felt revolutionary. Here was someone who valued my thoughts, who asked questions because she was actually interested in the answers. We should grab coffee sometime and brainstorm some more ideas, she suggested. I'd like that. When I got home that night, my wife was in the exact same spot on the couch where I had left her that morning, scrolling on her phone. How was work? She asked without looking up. Productive. I gave a presentation that went really well. That's nice. That's nice. 3 years of couples therapy could not have illustrated our problem more clearly than those 2 words. She was not interested in my success, my goals, or my growth. She just wanted me to exist in the background of her life, not requiring any real attention or investment on her part. The coffee meeting happened the following Tuesday. What was supposed to be a 30-minute brainstorming session turned into an hour and a half of the kind of conversation I had forgotten was possible. She listened to everything I said, built on my ideas, challenged me in a way that made me think harder and perform better. Your wife is really lucky, she said as we were wrapping up. She gets to have these conversations with you every day. I almost laughed. Not exactly. What do you mean? Let's just say not everyone appreciates the same things you do. She looked confused, as if the concept of not appreciating a good conversation was foreign to her, which made me realize how foreign it had become to me, too. That weekend, instead of my usual routine of house projects and couple activities my wife would tolerate but not enjoy, I made other plans. I went hiking by myself for the first time in years. I spent an entire day doing exactly what I wanted, without considering anyone else's preferences. The silence was incredible. Not the awkward silence of a marriage where 2 people have nothing to say to each other, but the peaceful silence of a person comfortable in his own company. When I got home that evening, refreshed and energized, my wife barely acknowledged my existence. Where were you all day? She asked during a commercial break. Hiking at the state park. By yourself? That's weird. Why didn't you ask me to come? Because you hate hiking. I don't hate hiking. You've complained every single time I've suggested it for the past 6 years. She was quiet for a moment. Well, you still could have asked. It was classic. Complain about not being included in something she would not have enjoyed anyway. Creating problems where there were none, then making them my fault for not reading her mind. 6 months ago, I would have apologized and promised to ask next time. Now I just shrugged. Next time I'll know you're interested. The shift in my attitude was becoming impossible to ignore. I was no longer the same guy who hung on her every word and bent over backward to make her happy. I was someone with his own interests, his own goals, and his own standards. And for the first time in our marriage, I was genuinely happy. Not the conditional happiness that depended on her mood or approval, but a genuine contentment that came from living authentically. The irony was not lost on me. She had spent months telling everyone she knew that I did not know how to satisfy a woman. But in trying to satisfy her, I had forgotten how to satisfy myself. Now that I had that part figured out, everything else was starting to fall into place. 3 months into my new routine, the changes were impossible to hide. I had lost 20 pounds, updated my wardrobe, and developed the kind of confidence that comes from genuinely liking yourself. The difference was most obvious at social events. We went to her company's annual barbecue on a Saturday afternoon. In the past, I would have stuck to her side, making small talk with whomever she wanted, being the supportive husband in the background. This time, I worked the room like I belonged there. I found myself in a conversation with 3 guys from her department about weekend projects and outdoor gear. Normal guy talk, but the kind I had forgotten I was good at. We were laughing about some ridiculous camping disaster when I noticed her watching us from across the deck. She had a strange expression on her face, not angry exactly, more like she was seeing something she did not recognize. Your husband's pretty funny, one of the guys said when she joined our group. He was just telling us about this fishing catastrophe. Oh, yeah, he's a riot, she said, but her tone was flat, as if she was not quite sure how to respond to people actually enjoying my company. Later, as I was grabbing drinks from the cooler, a coworker's wife came up to me. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you seem really different from the last time we saw you. More I don't know. Present. Confident. Thanks. I've been focusing on some personal goals lately. Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. You look great. These interactions kept happening, not just at the barbecue, but everywhere. The woman at the coffee shop who started remembering my order and always smiled when I came in. The guy at the gym who asked if I wanted to join his weekend basketball group. The neighbor who mentioned how good my lawn looked and asked what my secret was. People were noticing me, actually seeing me, and the more they did, the more I realized how invisible I had become in my own marriage. The basketball group became a regular thing. Saturday mornings. Good, competitive hoops and the kind of friendly trash talk that seals male friendships. After the games, we would grab breakfast and solve the world's problems over coffee and eggs. You should bring your wife sometime, one of the guys suggested. My girlfriend loves watching us play, says it's better than cable. She's not really into sports. What is she into? I paused, realizing I could not answer that question anymore. What was she into, besides complaining and scrolling on her phone? Good question, I said finally. The guys laughed, thinking I was being sarcastic, but I was dead serious. At work, the coffee meetings with my marketing colleague became a weekly occurrence. Professional networking, she called it, but our conversations had evolved beyond work topics. We talked about books, travel plans, life goals, the kind of substantive discussions that make you think and grow. I've been meaning to ask you, she said during one meeting. Are you and your wife planning anything fun for your anniversary next month? I had completely forgotten our anniversary was coming up. We don't have any plans yet. Well, if you need any restaurant recommendations, I know some great places. My ex never wanted to go anywhere special, so I ended up discovering all the good spots on my own. She would occasionally mention her ex-husband, but never with bitterness, just as context for why she valued certain things. Good conversation, mutual respect, shared interests. All the things that seemed to be missing from my current situation. What happened with your marriage, if you don't mind me asking? We just grew in different directions. He wanted someone who was content with the basics. I wanted someone who would grow with me. Eventually, we realized we were making each other miserable, trying to be people we weren't. That conversation stuck with me for days. The idea that two people could simply want different things, and it was not necessarily anyone's fault, but it was everyone's responsibility not to settle for less than what they needed. The wake-up call came the following weekend. We were having dinner with her sister and brother-in-law, our first double date in months. I went into it with enthusiasm. I was feeling more social lately, more comfortable in conversation. I thought it might be a chance to reconnect with my wife in a different setting. Instead, it was a showcase of just how far apart we had grown. While I was talking with her brother-in-law about a hiking trail he had recommended, I overheard her sister ask my wife a question that sent a chill down my spine. So, what's got him so happy these days? He seems like a totally different person. My wife's response was telling. Honestly, I have no idea. He's been acting weird for months. Goes to the gym all the time, stays late at work, barely talks to me. Maybe he's having a midlife crisis, her sister suggested, laughing. Maybe. Or maybe he's finally growing up. Either way, it's about time. Her tone was dismissive, as if my transformation was an inconvenience to her rather than something that might intrigue or please her. But her sister's next comment hit differently. Well, whatever it is, it's working for him. He looks fantastic, and he actually seems interested in conversation now. Remember how quiet he used to be at family stuff? He was never quiet. He just didn't have much to say. No, I think he had plenty to say. He just wasn't confident enough to say it. Look at him now. I pretended not to hear, but I caught every word. Her sister could see changes that my own wife either did not recognize or did not care to see. The car ride home was awkward. Your sister seemed to enjoy dinner, I said, testing the waters. She's always liked you. She thinks you're funnier than you really are. Glad someone does. She shot me a look. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just making conversation. But we both knew it meant everything. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, I caught her staring at me in the bathroom mirror. What? I asked. Nothing. You look different lately. Different how? I don't know. Fitter, I guess. More confident. It was the first time in months she had actually looked at me, actually seen me instead of just glancing in my direction. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not bad. It's just different. Different. That seemed to be everyone's favorite word to describe me these days. But while others said it as a positive change, she said it like it was something she was not sure she liked, which told me everything I needed to know about where we stood. I was becoming the man I always had the potential to be, confident, engaged, interesting. The question was whether my wife wanted that man, or if she preferred the version who was content to live in her shadow. Based on her reaction so far, I was pretty sure I knew the answer. The pressure started to build when her sister would not let it go. Seriously, what's your secret? She asked me directly at their mother's birthday party 2 weeks later. You're like a completely different person. Happier, more confident. What changed? Before I could answer, my wife jumped in. He's been going to the gym and thinks he's some kind of fitness guru now. It's not just the gym, her sister insisted. You seem more I don't know, alive. Like you're actually enjoying your life now. I am enjoying my life. Well, it shows. The question is, why now? What was different before? My wife's face tensed. She clearly did not like where this conversation was headed. People change, I said simply. Sometimes you just realize you've been settling for less than you deserve. The silence that followed was deafening. Later that week, my wife tried a different approach. She started making efforts she had not made in years, cooking my favorite meals, suggesting we watch movies together, even initiating conversations about my work. But it felt forced, desperate even. We should plan a weekend away, she suggested at breakfast. Just the two of us. Remember how we used to do that? When was the last time we did that? She paused, clearly trying to remember. It's been a while, but that doesn't mean we can't start again. Why now? What do you mean, why now? Can't I want to spend time with my husband? You can. I'm just curious about the timing. She got defensive. I don't need a reason to want to reconnect with you. But we both knew she had won. The problem was, her sudden interest felt like damage control, not genuine affection. The breaking point came when her sister cornered me at the grocery store. Can I ask you something? She said, appearing beside me in the cereal aisle. Sure. Are you happy in your marriage? The directness of the question caught me off guard. That's a pretty personal question. I know, but I'm worried about my sister. She seems, I don't know, anxious lately. Like she's afraid of something. Afraid of what? Losing you, maybe. She keeps asking me if I think you're acting weird, if I notice anything different. She's obsessing over it. Interesting. So my wife was worried enough to pump her sister for information, but not worried enough to talk to me directly. What do you think? I asked. Honestly, I think you've realized you're worth more than you were getting. And now she's panicking because she realizes what she stands to lose. Her sister was smarter than I had given her credit for. The thing is, she continued, she's been complaining about you for years. To me, to our mom, to her friends. Always something wrong. Always something you weren't doing right. I know. You know? I've known for a while. And you're okay with that? I'm dealing with it. She studied my face carefully. Good. Because honestly, the way you are now, this confident, happy version, this is who you're supposed to be. Don't let anyone convince you to go back. That evening, my wife was waiting for me when I got home from the gym. We need to talk, she said. About what? About us. About what's been going on with you lately. What's been going on with me? Don't play dumb. You know exactly what I mean. The gym, the attitude, the way you barely talk to me anymore. I talk to you. Not like you used to. You used to be interested in my day, in what I was thinking, in making me happy. And now you act like you don't need me at all. There it was. The real problem. Not that I was unhappy, but that I was no longer dependent on her. Maybe I don't need you in the same way anymore. Her face paled. What is that supposed to mean? It means I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I'm not going to apologize for that. But what about us? Our marriage? What about it? Don't you want to work on it? I looked at her for a long time. The woman who had spent months telling everyone she knew that I could not satisfy her. The woman who was now panicking because I had stopped trying to prove her wrong. That depends, I said finally. Do you actually want to work on it? Or do you just want me to go back to being the guy who accepted whatever crumbs of attention you were willing to give? She did not answer, because we both knew what the real answer was. The conversation we had been avoiding finally happened on a Thursday night. She was watching me get dressed for my basketball game when she finally broke. I know you heard me talking to my sister that night. I stopped lacing my shoes and looked at her. Which conversation exactly? Don't make me say it. Actually, I think you should. Say it out loud. To me, this time, instead of everyone else. Her face crumpled. I was just venting. I didn't mean it. You did mean it. And you meant it when you told your coworkers, too. And your friend from college. And probably half the people we know. She sat down heavily on the bed. How long have you known? Long enough to realize that while I was trying to be the husband you wanted, you were busy telling everyone I was the husband you settled for. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is spending 6 years of a marriage thinking we were partners, when you saw me as a disappointment you had to endure. The silence stretched between us. I want to fix this, she said finally. Fix what exactly? The fact that you don't respect me, or the fact that I've finally figured that out? I do respect you. No, you don't. Respect doesn't come with a laugh track when you're describing your husband's shortcomings to your sister. She started to cry, but it felt manipulative rather than genuine. Please, we can go to therapy. We can work on this. Here's the thing, I said, standing up. I have been working on it. I've been working on myself. I figured out what I need to be happy, and I went out and did it. The question is whether you can be happy with the man I actually am, instead of the man you were trying to make me. Of course I can. Prove it. How? Stop trying to manage my transformation and start appreciating it. Stop seeing my confidence as a threat and start seeing it as an asset. Stop treating my happiness like it's taking something away from yours. She wiped her eyes. I can do that. I don't think you can. Because the truth is, you were comfortable when I was insecure. When I needed your approval. When I was constantly trying to prove myself to you. That dynamic worked for you. That's not true. Then why are you more upset that I'm happy than you ever were when I was miserable? She could not answer that. I met someone, I said quietly. Her head snapped up. What? Someone who appreciates good conversation. Someone who values intelligence and humor and ambition. Someone who thinks I'm worth listening to. You're having an affair? No. I'm having the kind of connection you convinced me I wasn't capable of. Turns out, I'm perfectly capable of satisfying someone. Just not someone who has already decided I'm not worth the effort. Who is she? It doesn't matter who she is. What matters is that she sees something in me that you either never saw or stopped seeing a long time ago. My wife stood up, anger replacing her tears. So that's it. You're just going to throw away our marriage for some woman from work. I'm not throwing away our marriage for another woman. I'm ending it for me. The other woman is just proof that I deserve better than what I've been accepting. This is crazy. You can't just give up like this. I'm not giving up. I'm choosing better. There's a difference. I picked up my gym bag and headed for the door. Where are you going? To play basketball with people who actually enjoy my company. Then I'm going to have a drink with a woman who finds me interesting enough to spend time with. And tomorrow, I'm going to wake up in a life where I'm valued instead of tolerated. What about us? She pleaded. I turned back to her one last time. There is no us anymore. There's you, complaining to anyone who will listen about how disappointing I am. And there's me, finally understanding that the problem was never my performance. The problem was the audience. I walked out that night and did not look back. 6 months later, I signed the divorce papers with no regrets. My wife tried to paint me as the villain who had abandoned our marriage for another woman. But her sister knew better, her co-workers knew better, even her friends knew better, because by then, everyone could see what I had finally realized. I had not found someone new. I had found myself again. And once you know what you are worth, you stop accepting anything less. The woman from marketing became much more than a colleague. Not because I was looking for a replacement, but because she recognized the man I had always been, underneath the insecurity and self-doubt. You know what I like most about you, she told me one evening as we watched the sunset from her deck. What? You know exactly who you are, and you don't apologize for it. She was right. I had finally satisfied myself by finding someone who genuinely appreciated my efforts. And that satisfaction was worth more than all the years I had spent trying to convince someone else I was enough. I was more than enough. I always had been. Comment. I wanted to share a few thoughts with you all after processing today's journey. Realizing your own worth is often the hardest, yet most necessary, step we can take. We must build healthy boundaries to protect our inner peace. Walking away from a negative environment is never a failure. It is actually a very brave choice for your own healing and growth. A healthy relationship will always be built on a foundation of deep mutual respect. Investing in your own happiness and self-esteem is the best decision you can make. We have a responsibility to treat others well, but we must also be kind to ourselves. I truly hope you always remember that you deserve to be valued and appreciated. Please take care of your heart and never settle for a space where you are only tolerated. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.